What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, December 26th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:12 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Europe and from Africa. So, yesterday, Trump launched massive airstrikes in Nigeria against ISIS. He announced on his Truth Social account that he bombed multiple ISIS targets, and apparently the U.S. used Tomahawk missiles launched from the USS Paul Ignatius, and the Nigerian government released a statement saying that they cooperated with the U.S. to assist with the strikes and help the U.S. with the strikes. And the U.S. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, said there's more to come regarding U.S. operations in Nigeria. So major breaking news. And this afternoon, we have a presidential Doomsday plane up in the air. And what's interesting about this Doomsday plane is it took off from Strategic Command Headquarters in Nebraska, and it flew all the way to D.C. and did a loop over D.C., and now it looks like it's heading back to Nebraska. And we also have a U.S. Nuclear War Command and Control plane up in the air as well. So U.S. nuclear forces are on high alert, and the U.S. continuity of government protocols are potentially being enacted for some reason today. And late last night, around 0300 Eastern Time, early this morning, late last night, we had a large number of U.S. nuclear codes transmitted in a short period of time. So I don't know if this is related to Nigeria again, or if this is related to Venezuela, the third oil tanker that they've been following, or if it's related to the Russian activity in Europe on Christmas Day, which I'm going to get into in just a minute here. We had some very concerning activity in Europe. Last night, we had a large number of U.S. military planes going down to the Caribbean. Specifically, we had at least two E-3 Sentry AWACS planes. These are surveillance and reconnaissance planes that flew from MacDill Air Force Base to Puerto Rico. If you remember, a couple of days ago, I showed you the picture, the aerial picture of MacDill, and there were 28 aerial refuelers and 2 of these E-3 Sentries sitting on the tarmac. Well, it looks like those 2 E-3 Sentries went down to Puerto Rico, which is a big movement because those planes can cover a lot of territory, and for there to be 2 of them in Puerto Rico now is a major red flag that the U.S. is preparing some big operation. And then also we heard about 9 U.S. aerial refuelers from MacDill were moved down to the Caribbean yesterday, okay? And we're hearing that Iran seized a foreign tanker carrying as many as 4 million liters of fuel. And the White House has ordered U.S. forces to focus on enforcing a quarantine of Venezuelan oil for at least the next 2 months. U.S. President Donald Trump directed the Pentagon to focus almost exclusively on enforcing the quarantine of oil coming from and going to Venezuela for at least the next 2 months in the form of a quasi-blockade in the southern Caribbean by the Coast Guard and Navy. And Ukraine said it used British Storm Shadow missiles to attack the Novoshatkhinsk oil refinery. And apparently Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is expected to meet President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in the coming days. So this is very serious news. Ukraine used Storm Shadow missiles, British missiles, to attack an oil refinery in Russia, the Novoshatkhinsk oil refinery. Huge news. And we're hearing Zelensky will be in Mar-a-Lago on December 28th, so that would be Sunday. And we have some very concerning news coming out of Poland and the UK. So Russia really tested Poland's airspace on Christmas Day yesterday and also tested British airspace. Polish fighter jets intercepted a Russian reconnaissance aircraft over the Baltic Sea, while separate airspace intrusions involving unidentified aerial objects were detected earlier from the direction of Belarus, according to the operational command of the Polish Armed Forces on December 25th. The interception took place over the international waters of the Baltic Sea, where Polish Air Force fighter jets conducted a visual identification of the aircraft and escorted it out of Poland's area of responsibility. The Russian aircraft was flying in proximity to Polish airspace, prompting the response. Earlier the same night, Polish radar systems detected the entry of unidentified aerial objects into Polish airspace from the direction of Belarus. Air defense radars continuously tracked the objects as they moved across the region. So this is big news, guys. Multiple objects flying into Poland. I'm hearing that they were possibly balloons or drones from Belarus. And then there was also a reconnaissance plane in the Baltic Sea that flew towards Polish airspace. And then also, in addition to that, we're hearing that Russian strategic bombers flew close to British airspace during a Christmas long-range sortie over the Norwegian Sea. Apparently, the flight was meant as a signal towards northern Britain. NATO scrambled fighter jets to monitor and track the aircraft throughout the mission. So huge news. They flew towards the UK and towards Poland. Okay, recon planes flew towards Poland in the Baltic. Balloons flew into Polish airspace from Belarus. And then long-range bombers flew towards Britain. And interestingly, on Christmas Eve, Turkey sent an E-7 AWACS plane up into eastern Poland. And during the time that the E-7 was flying in eastern Poland, they actually closed down the airspace in that part of Poland. So that was a very high priority mission that the Turks were flying in eastern Poland. And that happened right around the time when those balloons flew in from Belarus. So my guess, and it's just my guess, is that Turkey scrambled that AWACS plane to detect those objects that were flying in eastern Poland. But what's interesting is Poland has their own reconnaissance planes. So I don't know why they scrambled a Turkish plane. The only thing I can think of is to prevent any kind of escalation, because maybe if Polish planes were flying close to the Belarus border, it could cause an escalation of some kind between Poland and Belarus. So by having a Turkish recon plane flying in that area, it would kind of prevent any kind of escalation. I don't know. And 9 bipartisan U.S. senators, both Republicans and Democrats, issued a joint statement sharply condemning Russian strikes on Ukrainian cities on Christmas. They called Putin a ruthless killer who is not interested in peace and cannot be trusted. Okay, so in addition to the sorties over Europe and the balloons and the planes flying to Poland, also Russia launched an attack on Ukraine on Christmas Day as well. And the White House has taken control of the U.S. Department of Justice's official account on X in an effort to temper and counter narratives related to the ongoing release of documents related to the case against Jeffrey Epstein, according to sources who spoke with Axios. So the White House literally has taken over the DOJ's X account, okay, because of the situation with the Epstein files. And North Korean leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a long-range ballistic missile test and inspected the hull of the first North Korean nuclear-powered strategic missile submarine, a guided missile submarine, nuclear-powered. And that happened on Christmas Eve, so clearly sending a message to us here in the U.S. And we also have some footage here coming out of China, showing China moving around some ICBMs. You can see here DF-61. That's one of their largest ICBMs with the massive 5 megaton warhead. And we're hearing that China has armed 100 new silos in their new silo fields near Mongolia. They armed 100 silos with ICBMs, potentially these ICBMs that you see right here being moved around on the streets in China. Look at that, guys. Just ICBM after ICBM after ICBM. These are road mobile launchers, okay? So, you know, China is going to have as many deployed nuclear warheads as we are in the next couple of years. That's very, very concerning, okay? Because if China and Russia were to attack us together, there's no way we could win a nuclear war against both Russia and China, okay? So we have to rapidly expand our nuclear arsenal, okay? Here you can see DF-31BJ. I'm assuming these are the ones that were going into those silos, because they said it was the DF-31s that were going into the silos. But look at all these ICBMs, guys, okay? And a U.S.-Panama crisis response exercise at the U.S. Embassy in Panama City brought together Navy SEALs, Green Berets, embassy staff, and Panamanian Special Forces to rehearse securing a diplomatic facility, extracting personnel, and neutralizing threats under compressed timelines. So very interesting that they would be doing a crisis response exercise in Panama. The only reason I could think of why they would be doing that is because they're getting ready to start some kind of big operation in the Caribbean, potentially against Venezuela, potentially against cartels. And as a backlash against that, there could be some regional forces in Latin America that try to attack embassies in different parts of Latin America. Okay, so this is preparations for upcoming operations, all right? And I also want to remind you guys that Netanyahu is going to be going to Mar-a-Lago soon. So we got Zelensky and Netanyahu going to Mar-a-Lago. And Netanyahu wants to talk about striking Iran again with Trump. He wants the U.S. and Israel to strike Iran's ballistic missile sites, okay, because Iran has hundreds of these bunkers in the mountains of Iran where they store ballistic missiles and produce them. And apparently, according to Israeli intelligence, that's a major threat, and they're concerned that Iran could launch these missiles at them in the near future. So they want to neutralize these missiles, and that's what Netanyahu is going to talk to Trump about. So we got a lot of things that could be happening in 2026. We got the Caribbean, we have Europe, potentially a war between Europe and Russia, potentially an invasion of the Baltic countries by Russia, potentially China attacking Taiwan. And then now we have another strike on Iran. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I will continue to monitor the situation, and I do have my 24/7 live stream up and running right now. You can tune in to listen to U.S. nuclear codes live throughout the day, and my excellent moderators will update the chat throughout the day. Big thanks to Ross and Mama Eagle and all the other moderators that assist with that. Googly eyes, thank you guys very much. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. Hope your Christmas weekend is going well. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.